Hi, everyone. Welcome to the last panel of the day. It's been a really incredible day, and it's wonderful to see so many people engaging in the panel sessions on chat. And I think this particular session will be meaningful for everyone here. We're going to be talking about a culture of wellness, and I will have the panel introduce themselves. Phil, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, hi everybody. Name's Philip Galler. Work at Lux Machina, and really excited to be included on the panel here. I think there's a lot of information, and I know this is a topic I personally have struggled with over the years. So I'm excited to share my experience, but also dive into how we can make improvements for our industry and where I think we're struggling the most. So thanks to you, Laura.
Excellent. Ash?
Hi, my name's Ash. I was one of the original founders of D3 that became Disguise. And recently I've sort of pulled back from writing code on shows and become more sort of long range concept. So I'm slightly different position in my career right now.
And Sarah?
Hello, everyone. So I'm Sarah Cox. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, working in various different on-site and production, all the way through to working with manufacturers. I kind of think of myself as a bit of a tech geek and a translator between commercial and technical. And these days, I kind of habit in the real-time content realm with the team at Notch.
Excellent. And I'm Laura. I've been on a sabbatical for almost 2 years now, which has been incredible. So it has been a fascinating experience for me to my community go through a work stoppage and how that's impacted their own perception of their relationship to their work life. When I wrote my textbook, I did reach out to people to write some essays for it, and I was shocked at the time, and this is now going back to last year, how many people wanted to talk about the challenges they face creating work-life balance. I think in the work we do, we all really love the technology we work with. We love the challenges that we engage with, which can result in a bad combination of spending a lot of hours engaged in these topics and cultivating relationships with clients where they expect us to go above and beyond, which, is very easy to do because we're engaged. But I think as you develop in this business and you see the impact on your personal well-being and your relationships, it can be a real struggle how you then have to go back and create this, change the expectations you've made with your clients. I liken us to Olympic athletes. It's like we're fine-tuned for high performance. And so when we break that rhythm, I think it's this moment of reflection. Though I think the panel here is having a very different relationship to the pandemic. I know some people are not working right now and exploring other things or educating themselves. And there are people on this panel who are working harder than they ever have before. So I want to pose the question to the group, what this pause in work has revealed to you about your approach to your own personal wellness, or has there been a pause for you? Phil, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, sort of a weird space for us. Certainly me. This has been the busiest we've ever been, and not busy at all at the same time. I think the thing that's really stressful for us right now in particular is that we're just on phone calls all day, right? The wear of being on Zoom calls, Skype calls, Teams, you name it. It's just it's really intense. And part of the problem for us in particular is that we're having lots of conversations, but they're not resulting in any revenue, right? We've got a business, we've got people to float, and it's really difficult because you don't want to break promises to people. You don't want to lay anyone off. You don't want to furlough. You don't want to cut salaries. But the industry is changing, and we're having to adapt. I think being in the middle of a global pandemic where there isn't a lot of real information, we don't actually know what is going to happen 6 months from now. We don't know what's going to happen 3 months from now. Makes it even more challenging. But I think we're an industry where everyone is looking to get to the next step, and that hasn't stopped during this time. So for me, it's been both fortunate and unfortunate. I recognize that we're in a good place where we have the capability to at least look at how to pivot, but whether or not we have the mental bandwidth to do that right now, in addition to, having to deal with the struggle of revenue and cash flow and people and their lives, right? And like ultimately, like, it comes down to people and their lives, right? Our goal has been not to impact anyone's life, but the reality is, like, at some point, if the conversations don't turn into revenue, there's no way to do that. And so for us, it's, yeah, we pivoted and that's great, but where are we going? And so it's been a really tough 4 months, 3 months, honestly, in dealing with this stuff. So I had kind of hoped it was going to be a pause, and then it wasn't, unfortunately. So yeah.
How about you, Ash?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting for me because I'm in sort of a dual position of not being operationally involved, but also being very closely in touch with what's going on in the business. And, there's a huge team of people working really hard, and they've had to make some really tough choices, laying people off and putting people on furlough, and everyone taking pay cuts, and, just generally doing what you have to do to tighten the belt. And, we're not in any danger, I wouldn't have said, but, definitely we're going through a tough time, and lots of changes being made. I think the positive aspect is, Miles saying is necessity is the mother of invention. Like you have to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and that's accelerating. It's accelerating a lot of things that were otherwise, oh yeah, we'll do them next year. It's like, no, we're going to do this now. So for example, the XR thing, which has been bubbling and brewing for a really long time, is suddenly now there's a huge amount of acceleration behind it, and that's exciting for me because that's what we wanted. And it's also accelerating changes in the way that we do business, the way that we handle relationships, all of that sort of stuff. I think the stressful part is, I mean, and here I'm speaking as much for people in the company as for myself. It's just there's no downtime, because you're dealing with, I'm literally up, even though I'm not operationally involved, I'm up at 6 a.m. and I'm out at midnight if I'm lucky, and I'm on calls the whole day, even if they're not directly work related. And there isn't really a difference now between work and life. So, poor Henry is here in the room with me, and he has to stay quiet because I don't have an office to go do this in, right? And so just this is affecting kind of our normal kind of life. And so, there's always this negotiation. Oh, let's go for dinner. No, actually, I can't shit because I've got this call that's happening in 10 minutes. So there's everything's sort of interrupted and everything's flowing around this central thing. But we figure out how to make it work, I think. But it feels like a sort of weird dream state now, where you're never at work and you're never down.
That's a really good point. That feeling of not being fully engaged and work in that community we build, because I think that's such an essential part of keeping our energy up on a job site, is the way we support each other. So we don't have that right now, but at the same time, we're dealing with these stress points of trying to support employees or subcontractors or ourselves and our family through this time. And Sarah, I think about you because I feel like, with your role at Notch, you were probably really just getting some really nice momentum going in your role there, and to turn around and tell us what it's like right now.
Yeah, that's funny, actually. What a crazy 4 months. Because, of course, we spent, like everybody else, the latter part of last year planning. And a lot of energy and focus goes into that, including at the beginning of the year. We had the whole year mapped out. We knew exactly where we were going, what we were going to do when we got there. And then within 5 days, we made the decision that all the stuff comes off the website, cancel everything, all the flights, contact everybody, make sure that they know we won't be there, we won't be doing these trainings, we won't be doing this stuff, and go home. And I think even I said to the team at one point, like, well, when are we coming back? And it's like, well, we don't know. There's no crystal ball. So it just like that, the switch just went off. And so now...
Is there a grieving process with that?
I think completely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, I think in one of the discussions that we've had, I think JT sums it up quite well and calls it the hell zone, because it doesn't end. It's a pattern. It's a pattern of behavior where you're on a high, you're working nearly, 18 hours a day, especially on the emotional side. Wellness is about those 8 core things that are around you. And emotional is one of those things. And we're a social bunch. Like this event that we're doing over the next couple of days is probably the thing we needed right now. in the last like 3 to 4 months. This is the best thing to happen to this community. You could feel the buzz within 15 minutes of you switching the waiting room on. And so that emotional sense right now of how different people are going through that hell zone journey, some days are up, some days are down. And in my role particularly, you spend a lot of your day talking to these people, and you can bounce from just the most tragic phone call where you're trying to support somebody's mental wellness, and then you bounce into something where somebody else is pivoting so fast and they've just reinvented the wheel and they've got a client pitch in 24 hours that they need you with. That is really that's a lot of fatigue, I think, involved in that. It's a lot of mental strength coming in at the moment in various people, I think.
I think the fatigue is real. And I think one of the things I hear from peers is that fatigue is sometimes interpreted as I'm home, I'm struggling emotionally with what's going on, or just psychologically trying to figure out what I'm supposed to learn so that I can get work in whatever form it takes. I'm trying to predict the future. And then maybe a job shows up and the momentum of like, I have to leave my house again. I have to get back into show mode. I do hear from people, there's this hint of resistance of like, am I really ready to go back into that? Because that had different unhealthy aspects.
Yeah. Well, and how much energy do you have left to go back to do work? Like, you know what I mean? There's this issue of like, if you're burnt out in the 3 months of just getting to this point, right? What happens when you have to go back to work and you're then burnt out? Like, I know personally, like I'm in the middle of a job right now, you know, I'm not at home, and like, it's been extremely difficult for me because, you know, I am lucky enough to have my girlfriend travel with me, and that's great. But like, I know it's a huge impact for her, but I'm looking at this going, now I'm burnt out on this job. I'm burnt out on the stress of having the 3 months of quarantine and dealing with the future. And like, I don't know that I'm ready for the next job. Not because, I mean, to your point, Laura, like, you know, the fear, but also like I'm burnt out. Like I'm completely burned out, you know, and it's because I spent, you know, in what was basically Groundhog Day every single day of not making any progress in my life and being worried about the future. And then when I got the opportunity to take the job, I took the job. And the job is still the same because we haven't learned yet how to fix the problems of what the jobs are. And so now I'm like double burned out, which is really difficult. You know what I mean? It's even more difficult than it was before.
Yeah, and the worst part is you can't even veg out by turning on like Facebook or something because it's all about COVID and diet.
Yeah, it's all there. Yeah, there's no escape.
No solace there.
So your burnout coping mechanisms or stress coping mechanisms before the pandemic, do they still apply, or are we relearning how to deal with burnout in this phase of our work life?
I think, I guess I can answer for myself, which is that I think I haven't found a mechanism yet. I think that works well. Like my mechanisms were go out for a ride, go do things with my friends, things that like I'm not able to do right now necessarily. And like I'm lucky in that, like, you know, we like to cook at home. And so like that's good, right? And like that's something that we do occasionally. But even now, like I'm coming home and like to Ash's point, right? Like I'm on calls and like I'm never off a call. Like, I mean, Nicole can, I'm sure, speak to this. Like I'm literally like I got on the phone at 7:00 this morning and I'm going to be on the phone for sure until 11 p.m. tonight. I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to wake up to frantic phone calls from people who are just trying to stay alive, right? And to me, that's as important somehow, you know, that needs to be as important. And so like, I don't have a coping mechanism because like, I partially feel responsible, which I should, but also like, I haven't found a coping mechanism because like, I don't know that there is one that works for me that doesn't involve me leaving the house in some capacity, you know? And like, I don't know what that means yet, but like, that's kind of where I'm at.
Ash, I know you've adopted some very particular strategies for stress and burnout management.
Yeah, there's this thing I've discovered that is just huge, which is just turning the phone off and turning the computer off for 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day, whatever it is, and doing what you need. You know, I think, you know, if you're the only person who can do job X and job X never ends because you're working across multiple time zones or whatever, then there's no hour that you can safely turn your phone off because you'll miss something. Whereas if you're working in a partnership with somebody and you can kind of go, look, this is really important that one of us gets to turn our phone off during the day and just do whatever it is. Let's team up in some way so that if I'm not around, you can handle whatever the emergency is, right? So that we've got each other's backs in some way. Like, let's not work alone. And then that gives us this thing of just going, I'm just going to turn the damn thing off, like literally physically turn it off, turn off the laptop so that I can't turn it on, I can't check it. And then, you know, I'll spend the next 5 minutes frantically trying to check it and realizing, no, stop doing that. And that's huge. I found that to be the most helpful thing so far, of just breathing, thinking your own thoughts, looking at a tree or the wall, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just rest, because otherwise you don't get any rest. There's just no rest.
Yeah.
I'm even dreaming weird. I'm dreaming about code and dreaming about shows that aren't working just before they start. And, it's like, even when I'm asleep, I'm not resting.
Yeah. Sarah, what are your burnout management strategies?
So I kind of recently had a quite a major burnout episode a few years back, and it was all around the occupational side of me. So I'd spent so many years driven by finding what I thought was happiness and my sense of value from that occupational part of me, that I actually, I became to the point where I forgot the things that, you really do bring that joy and that relief into your life. And actually what the lockdown, or what this has done for me, is I've just found that kind of intellectual stimulus again. Like, I'm now back to doing creative things that I haven't done in such a long time. I'm making stuff in Notch. I'm making bad audio reactive art. And it's just such a sense of just switch off, wind down, satisfaction, relief. And I'm finding that part of me is growing.
That's
Definitely
fantastic to hear. Like, that is inspiring. So, did you hit a point where you were like, I need a creative outlet, or I'm going to burst? Or is this like an adopted behavior because you knew it was important to your wellness?
I think it was kind of a hit point, because I was looking, obviously I've been well aware of looking at wellness and where the areas are that, because you can't impact all of them. When I look at physical, I'm not going to run. Everyone that knows me knows this is just not my thing. I love food too much. I love my wine. So we've got our vices. Some things we're not actually going to be able to impact in that wellness circle. But when I look at that creative side, that is something that's always been there. I blew my entire student loan in the 3 years of buying audio equipment and mixing desks. I had the most kitted out student halls of anyone. And so now it just feels like it's coming back to some of that playfulness, and that's finding the joy in that.
You all have either a user base or employees. Do you find yourself having to support them or counsel them when they're approaching burnout, or reminding them to take care of themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think yes and no. I think everybody's finding that they have to do this. I think the opportunity is there. Whether or not everyone's taking that opportunity, I think is there. Like, we would always, I mean, hopefully anyone who works with me would say that we would help them through whatever. And of course, I don't know their perspective on it, but I would like to think that. And from where we come, like, the door's always open, and we make that clear when we hire people that, like, we can always talk to them through this stuff. I think part of the reality right now is that people, not because we don't want to have answers, but like, people know that we don't have answers because there may not be an answer, and so, like, they can come talk to me, and like, I can help them through hey, let's talk through the challenge of this. But I don't know that I necessarily have like Sarah said, I don't have a crystal ball. You know what I mean? Like, I don't exactly know where it all lands. We've definitely been something we started that we never did before, is we've started a weekly meeting, which is a bit odd because, like, we were always on Slack, we're always talking all the time, but we're usually on a job site. And to replace that, we said, well, let's do a 30-minute weekly meeting, in which we're just going to talk about, like, the status of the business, right? To give everyone this, like, okay, this is where we are, and be as honest and transparent about cash and money and things that a business can be, with the hope that people understand that we're telling the truth, but also that, like, they're realizing that, like, we're willing to go on this sort of road with them, and, like, we will make the decisions we can to protect their employment as best we can, and to protect them from a position of security, because we understand everybody's in a different financial position. And so it's like, how do we deal with that? Will we be as transparent as possible? So that's what we did. I like to think it worked. I think the reality is, like, this has been the hard, from a business owner point of view, and I'm sure the rest of you can echo this. It's been certainly the hardest 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is that I've ever had. Just because, like, we're making really, really tough decisions about people's futures in a way that, like, I was hoping I would never have to. And it's crossing that bridge and doing that. But, like, I hope that we handle that with care, and we've been respectful of people and what they have.
Yeah, I think I've found more than ever the last, like, few months, talking to various different people, and and that people just want to talk. They don't necessarily even want an answer from you, but they just want that sounding board of, this is how I feel. Can you just give me a kind of sanity check that this is okay and that I'm all right? And and even when we talk about people going back to work, like you said, Laura, the conversations that I've had from business owners that have been in this game for a very long time, where they've just said to me, Sarah, don't know if I want to come back. I don't know if I want to hand the reins over to someone else and let the younger generation take this thing forward, because whatever comes back will be different and it will take a different set of energy to push that momentum forward.
I found it very interesting because I see the restaurant industry having a lot of parallels to the entertainment industry, and a lot of chefs and restaurant owners were talking about this because that's a high intensity job with long hours. And there were some in the New York Times from restaurant owners asking these same questions, like, is it worth it? Because what we're coming back to is there's going to be all these starts and stops, right? As we learn the way forward in what we do, and the risk of being in a restaurant, being on a job site, until we understand these more. Phil, can you mute? Sorry, we're hearing you typing.
Sorry, guys.
That's okay. There's just so many factors to consider. And, I think whether you're there for your subcontractors or users or employees, we just have to keep listening, right? And that's what's kind of reconnected me to the community, because I made a choice to take a different kind of break for myself, to have my own personal exploration, and I really value that sabbatical time. And this is not the first time I've given myself a sabbatical. I think there is value in breaking away and taking other explorations, and then coming back in a different role, even because we all have something to contribute, and maybe we'd enjoy contributing in a different way. So one of the questions I have too is when it comes to our clients, they have their own pressures, but do you see clients being thoughtful about wellness considerations in this time, or even prior? Like, how were your conversations with clients about taking care of your time, your the care and wellness of how they built out a show environment for you? It's a tough one, right?
Yeah. So I have a couple answers. The first answer is some client. I guess the answer is some clients are choosing to listen, and some clients are not. Some clients are real. I've had a series of conversations, and some jobs we've not taken during this time because it was clear that people were going to be irresponsible because I don't think because they want to be irresponsible, but because I think they also feel like they're in dire straits, both financially, economically, emotionally, and so they're taking risks. And those risks, just like all other work, we all know, like, it all starts at the top, right? It trickles down to us eventually, right? And whether it's show work or it's relationships, like, everything works that way. You know what I mean? And I think that there's two sides of the coin. I think we need to be on the side of the coin, all of us, right? That are, when someone who is a client who's saying, well, no, we need to do this at any cost, right? We go, no, we're not going to do that anymore. No, we're not going to take that risk. And no, we're not we're not going to do the 11th hour thing, right? And I think the only thing we can do is say no, right? And I think we all have to be comfortable. And I know we have gotten to a point now where, like, we're looking at certain jobs and people are coming to us, producers we've worked for in the past, right? We've said, yeah, we'll do this gig in the past. And, like, now we're saying no because the way it's being handled during this time seems like it's in the same way. And we cannot take both the risks of the people from physical health, sort of, we don't want to get coronavirus, but also, like, everyone's tired, everyone's burnt out. And the reality is, like, we don't need a fire drill constantly. Like, I want to be able to choose my fire drills. And, like, a year ago, I wasn't choosing my fire drills, but I could manage my fire drills. And, like, now I'm at a point where, like, if a producer is still looking at this going, oh, well, I'm just going to do the same thing. Like, I won't go into details, but there was a job about a month ago where I got off the phone with the producer and said, look, I don't know that my team and I want to do this because we want to, we're trying to maintain hours and, like, we're trying to be healthy. And I got off the phone and they clearly didn't listen to me, and they started texting me show requests. And that was the moment. And it was 10 o'clock at night, right, on a Thursday. And I was like, no, like, this is the moment where I'm saying no. Because, like, if I don't do it now, like, I'm never going to do it. And we didn't do the job. And I called them back and I said, no, like, I'm sorry. Like, we're not going to do this. We don't have faith that you have our interests in mind. And we all like to get through this, we all have to have all of our interests in mind. It can't be a one-sided coin anymore. So that's right. We come at it from.
So we're down to like the last few minutes. So I just want to say, let me rephrase the question slightly, and I'd love to hear from all of you on this, because there are going to be people listening to this discussion who don't feel empowered to say no right now. They're running on fumes financially. They are at a point in their career where any opportunity at any cost seems like a good opportunity because they want access to certain jobs. So what advice would you offer those listening to be thoughtful in the choices they make moving forward for regarding wellness?
I think from my side, I would, there's always been a concern when we come towards anything that looks like a live event switching back on, in whatever that's going to look like. But there's been a concern that everyone will race to the bottom because of this, this panic, and it's completely founded as well. I understand that. But I think we have to be, we are literally stronger together as a community, and we need to value ourselves enough that we talk to each other and that we know that we shouldn't be trying to fight and undercut in that way to just disrupt ourselves, because it's just going to hurt us in the long run. I think we can take a clear look at things like sustainability and the way that we've seen committees and communities like the Albert Sustainable Production Community who have come out of this together to formulate some kind of clear guidelines and guidance, towards how productions should manifest themselves, how they should support people, and the types of things that if you're young and you don't, you want to raise your hand, we all need to be more mindful of those people we're working with in teams and support them. Let's talk and speak up and be that ear and listen to each other.
Ash, how about you? Do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, two things. I think, it's really easy to get into your glass half empty state of mind where you're focusing only on how terrible everything is all the time. I think it's really helpful to turn that around and ask, well, what do I have to be grateful about? And there are a lot of good things about, the working from home, spending more time with family. There are benefits that if one pays attention to and focuses on those, you can change the emotional narrative of what's going on, right? And so, we're in an unprecedented time, but you can choose to frame it that we're all on together. And yeah, of course, it's going to be bloody tough. But if we hold on to each other and help each other, and there are things to enjoy in this. And if we can focus on those, then that's how we're going to get the emotional energy to get through this. I think. Yeah. I think the second thing I'd say is let this not pass without something constructive happening from it. So let's, as an industry, try and evolve some kind of code of conduct or a charter. To Sarah's point of sustainability, is what are the things that a good production, what are best practices that everyone can sign up? Because the point is, it's in the interest of the people making the shows, our clients, for this stuff to get figured out. It's in everybody's interest that everybody's healthy and happy. You make better stuff that way, right? And so, I would love this conversation to be the seed point for some sort of industry document or charter saying we, the undersigned, think this is a good idea, right?
I would love this conversation to start that draft of guidelines for the community, whether it's modeled after a code of conduct, a white paper, suggested guidelines that we could get the community to build together and then sign on to, that say that we are basically charter signers of this document that we build together. We want these suggested guidelines for the wellness of our community and our working practices, whether it's, the union style structure of hours per day, turnaround times, how people are remunerated for certain working conditions, or just that, that there is potential for people who are struggling, especially right now. I think that would be so valuable to have. So yeah, I think we should be doing that. Any other thoughts on that, Phil? What you have advice you would offer?
Yeah, I think sort of echoing what everyone said, which is that I think we all need to just be willing to stand up and put up a I don't want to say put up or shut up, but it kind of is that time where we need to now do the thing that we've always talked about, which is write down what we want to live by and actually live by it and put forth what we think is that standard. and do that. And I think if we don't do it as a community, it never happens. My advice would be, don't be afraid to say no when you feel like you're uncomfortable, and also don't be afraid to for sure. If you think someone's struggling, pick up the phone and call them. You know what I mean? Like, even if you don't know, like, don't be afraid to reach out to people because you're not sure what they need. If they don't need something, when you get on the phone with them, they'll tell you they're fine and it's okay. And if they're lying to you, they'll still appreciate that you called. And like, it's okay to pick up the phone and call people. And we shouldn't be afraid of that. And like, none of what we're talking about here is a weakness. It's how we all get stronger. And that for me is
agreed.
important.
To echo what Sarah said, stronger together. And I hope those listening, they take this to heart, that we are stronger together. That's a huge motivator from Framework, and to bring the community together so we can see and recognize in each other that we're all struggling with this, and we can support each other. So I want to thank you for this discussion. I think it'll be really valuable for everyone, and I think we should start working on that document together. So please stay with us for 1 minute. I'm going to introduce the next part of our event, which is social hour time. Thanks again to the panel, and really thanks again to all of you for joining us today. It has been just a really personally incredible experience bringing these panels together to share with all of you. So before we head over to social hour, I just want to give you a little insight into how the sessions themselves work. And if you've gone over to Uru Connects for the stream, please, you'll need to come back into Hopin to go into the sessions area, which is in the left navigation bar. When you load the sessions page, you will see an open general session that anyone can go into. And there are 4 sessions related to the panels that we've held today. These will be moderated by some of our speakers who are able to stay and join us. And if you have further questions, you can go in and interact with them and each other. These sessions are limited to 20 active users who can share their audio and video. If the session is full, you can still view and listen into the discussion until there's a slot available for you to come into the session. Access to the panel-led sessions are moderated by those speakers. So after you've given Hopin permission to use your camera and microphone, the moderators will have to bring you into the session. So please just hold out for a second. Someone will bring you in as soon as they can. You'll be able to listen to any discussion going on until you're brought into the session. What's nice about Hopin, and one of the reasons I chose it, attendees can start their own sessions. So if you've been able to ask some questions and visit the panel speakers, and you want to go out and have your own social time with other community members, feel free to enjoy the space and chatting with each other. This is very casual time for us to hang out together. So to wrap up, don't forget to join us again tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. We have 4 more great panels for you that I trust you will enjoy. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for helping us build Framework. This is just the beginning, and we look forward to more. See you shortly.